Many Aikido students think that the faster they move, the better their technique will be, or the more effective it'll be. In Aikido, timing beats speed. Here's why. Think of catching a train. So if you arrive 1 second early, you step right onto the train. If you arrive 1 second late, it's gone. Okay? You miss it. Doesn't matter if you ran to the train station or what, you missed it. So timing, not speed, gets you on the train. It reminds me of something an old horse riding instructor told me one time. Some of you who watch my videos know that I was an avid horse rider. Went to Meredith Manor School of Horsemanship in West Virginia, if anybody knows that. And the owner of the school, Ron Meredith, he gave us our business class every day, or once a week, I don't remember. But anyway, one day in equine business, one of the students asked a question, and so about horses, and he started answering by telling us, well, the other day I was riding on my hog. Hog was his Harley Davidson. Anyway, he said that on this country road he was going about 80 miles per hour on his Harley Davidson. He came around a turn in the road and immediately found himself on an oil slick. There had been some accident, and an oil truck or something had spilled all this oil. And he said, I quickly took my hand off the throttle. And one of the students raised their hand and said, oh, wait, so you suddenly took your hand off the throttle, and he cut her off immediately. He said, no, I didn't do anything suddenly. I did it quickly and succinctly. I don't know if he used the word succinct, but I did it quickly. If I had done it suddenly, I would have crashed. I didn't crash. So he said he sort of glided through this oil slick, and when he was out of it, he gradually slowed down. He got off his bike and went back to see if the driver was okay. But anyway, hey, sorry to interrupt the video, but some of you have been asking how you can get a copy of my book, The Teacher. The book includes topics such as from horse riding to Budo, the Japan experience, back home, building intuition, attracting new students to Aikido, nonviolence in Aikido, leading by example, women in Aikido, arrogance, no to homogenization in Aikido, Aikido and distance teaching, body alignment, more. If you haven't yet purchased it and you'd like to, just head to lia-suzuki.com/book, or you can find that link in the description here on YouTube. The book is available in English and Italian. If you want it in Italian, you've got to go to Amazon. There's plenty of really cool photos. There's me when I first started Aikido, even before I got to Boston, which is where my first teacher is. Also Takeda Shihan, Bill Gleason Sensei, my first teacher. And for those of you who might know him, Gary Small Sensei, taking ukemi long ago. Another of Takeda Shihan, Yamaguchi Sensei. All right. We've got a couple of me teaching seminars, of course. And then even one with me with explaining something with Shoto. This is in the No to Homogenization section. As I said, the link is in the description below. Just click on that, go to lia-suzuki.com/book and order yours. Let's get back to the video. It's the same thing on the mat. So if the timing is right, we don't have to move fast or slow. We have to move according to the situation. So sure, sometimes the situation calls for us to move fast or to move slow, but never suddenly. Okay? And it has to be mindful. So when your timing is right, you don't have to move fast. You just have to read your partner and move with the partner's energy and timing. So just like with a horse, if we move suddenly, then we tighten up, and the horse feels that tightening, and they either spook and take off, or they buck, or they resist somehow or another. Anyway, when I was living in Japan and training regularly with Takeda Sensei, and sometimes had the good fortune of training with Yamaguchi Sensei, they both reminded us it doesn't need to be fast. Go at a slow pace sometimes. So again, maybe we need to do it quickly, maybe we need to do it slowly, but the appropriate speed is what's important. So we need to align with the partner's rhythm and intent. We need to use mai, or distance. We need to use kuzushi, or unbalancing, instead of just forcing things before they're ready to happen. So quickly putting on the brakes on his Harley Davidson at the moment that he saw all the oil would have been disastrous. So he didn't take any action until he was out of that oil slick, and then he gradually put on the brakes. So imagine, if you would, imagine training with a 22-year-old Shodan, for example, and a 60-year-old beginner in Aikido. Okay? 22-year-old Shodan in Aikido, 60-year-old beginner in Aikido. Of course, there's going to be exceptions, but for the most part, most 60-year-old beginners will move a little more slowly than most 22-year-old Shodan, right? I think we'd all agree to that in general. So what I see often, if you don't adjust your timing, and some people don't, if you don't adjust your timing, you'll end up either pushing the 60-year-old to move faster than they even physically can sometimes, or tragically, I think, stifling the natural energy of the 22-year-old by insisting that they slow down. And by the way, I see this very often, that teachers intentionally or unintentionally dull the spark of younger students because they haven't developed the sensitivity to meet that energy without tightening up. They expect this 22-year-old to come at them at the same pace as the 35-year-old 2 seconds ago, and they don't. They spring up. And then many times that 22-year-old gets reprimanded. So that's a topic for another video on another day. Actually, let me know if you want me to develop that theme further. But anyway, instead, we have to reach the level where we can let the 60-year-old be their natural selves on the mat, and the 22-year-old as well. It takes a lot of practice. It takes some skill. So speed tries to overpower the other person. Timing harmonizes with the other person, right? If we're focused on speed for the sake of speed, then we are trying to overpower the other person and we're not listening to them. Timing, on the other hand, harmonizes with our partner, and timing requires that we listen. If you've been watching my videos, you've probably noticed that I sometimes use Shoto, or short sword. I find that it helps students drop their shoulders, stop pushing, and really feel the technique. Right now, I have a limited number of these Lia Suzuki Signature Shoto available. They're made in Japan from premium Japanese white oak. They're engraved with my signature, and they're really beautifully balanced. Because of the lumber shortage in Japan, I was only able to get a small batch of them. So once these are gone, that's it for the time being. So if you'd like one, click the link below to reserve yours. During the checkout process, you'll be prompted to let me know which seminar you'll attend, and then I'll bring it right to you. Now let's get back to the video. So we have to listen with our body, if that makes sense. When you enter at the exact right moment, hopefully you've had some experience with that. Every now and then, like, bam, you just nail it and you go, ah, right? Even a small movement feels so powerful. In fact, sometimes you'll enter at exactly the right moment, at exactly the right angle, with exactly the right alignment, and you feel like, oh, Uke just faked it for me. And they go like, wow, that was incredible. They weren't faking it at all. I hope you've experienced that. If not, keep training, and you will. You will. If you keep trying and trying to improve your Aikido, and yeah, keep training. Now, the next thing I want to say, I want to go back to this idea. It doesn't mean that we need to move slowly, but there's a big difference between moving quickly and moving suddenly. So back to this topic. Moving quickly means being efficient, awake, responsive, okay? Moving suddenly means being reactive. It shows that you were startled, maybe disconnected in the first place, that then something happened that you weren't expecting because you weren't fully tuned in maybe, and then that's when you react by doing something suddenly. And quick movement comes from this readiness or mindfulness, and sudden movement often comes from panic or shock, right? Right? So, and there's a big difference between being quick and rushing. So quickness is presence. Rushing really kind of shows some anxiety. Yeah. When you rush, your mind gets ahead of your body. When you move quickly, your body and mind arrive together. When you move slowly, anyway, it's about mindfulness in your timing, mindfulness in your movement, mindfulness in your pace of things. Let's move on. When you move with awareness, your timing naturally becomes quick without forcing it. It gets quicker and quicker, it gets easier and easier to be quick or to arrive at the correct timing appropriate for you and your partner. And that is when Aikido has some chance of starting to feel effortless. So imagine someone, just as an example, imagine that someone is reaching out to grab your wrist. And if you pull away too early, they just readjust their aim, right? They were going for that target. Now you pulled it away before they were fully committed to that attack. And so they adjust their target. They're going this way, then the target moves there, they go that way, right? So you've given them time to track you. But if you wait until they're completely committed to that target, and then you move your wrist, even just a half inch, a centimeter, right? That can unbalance them, at least to a certain degree. Their body can't really quite catch up to what their mind already decided to do. But here's the key. For this example that I just gave, you also have to stay loose. So if you try to rush or hurry, you'll tighten up, and then that tension breaks the connection. And just like that horse, it's like, whoa, what's going on? Why is this happening? Why are they yanking on me suddenly? So same thing. Even if there's no physical connection, if you move your hand kind of jerky and tight, then the connection is broken. If it's a smooth movement, they're more likely to not be able to get out of that commitment that they already made, the commitment to the attack. So the moment you tighten, you lose the timing, or it goes to naught, right? It's not useful anymore. So timing is awareness. When you train to feel your partner's center, breathing, intention, you can act just before they act, not because you're faster, but because you're tuned in. I've had one student who actually gets panic attacks during class. They get panic attacks in their daily life. And sometimes I train in with my students, or they're grabbing me, I'm grabbing them. Anyway, this one person, when they grab me, sometimes I feel the trembling. And then I know, oh, they're having a panic attack right now. And this person is really good at training through their panic attacks. So a little bit slight cold sweat. And I've invited them, of course, to, oh, feel free to sit off. They're like, nope. But anyway, instead of saying anything now, like, oh, take it easy, you're having a panic attack. Instead of anything like that, I just look at this uke and I say, breathe. And then they take a big breath, and then the shaking stops. It's amazing. So anyway, we've got this incredible opportunity, somebody grabbing our wrist. And this is a great opportunity to get a lot of information about what's going on. I've also had students that, now this might sound really crazy. Here we go. I don't know, the YouTube trolls, maybe they're going to really get on me for this. But I've had students who, when I'm grabbing them, I notice kind of a strange sweat to them. I don't know if anybody's had this experience. I notice a strange kind of sweat and I think, oh, this person's getting sick maybe. Maybe they're catching a cold or maybe something worse, hopefully not. And then find out later that yes, indeed, they were sick. They text the next day like, I won't be there, I've come down with something. So amazing. So if I did that, if I trained with them in kind of a fast, jerky way and didn't really, really tune in and listen, I would miss that information. So over time, this awareness, it becomes more and more intuitive. All of this stuff becomes more and more intuitive. We build reflexes in Aikido. And in Japanese, there's a word kan, means intuition. And that subtle sensitivity that comes from years of connection and repetition develops into intuition. It refines your intuition and increases it and helps us trust ourselves to listen to the intuition. That's the next step with intuition. How many times have you thought, oh, I feel something's bad about going to this party, and then you go to the party and something bad happens and you're like, oh, I should have listened to my intuition. But I think that proper training, proper Aikido training helps us to not only increase our intuition, but also to listen to it. So it's not about speed, it's about sensitivity. So in conclusion, next time that you train, don't ask, let's see if I can do this faster. Instead, ask, can I feel the right moment? All right? So that's your homework from this video. So try slowing down and you'll start to move at just the right speed automatically. Really try to slow down. And you don't have to, in fact, I don't make eye contact with my partner. I find it very distracting. But I try to look past them. So if you look down, a lot of people look down at their hands, which is kind of funny. We all catch ourselves doing that, but our hands aren't going anywhere. We know where they are, but we like to look at our hands. So if you stop looking at your hands, and I always advise students to look at the wall. So here's your partner's head. You look at the wall past their head, all right? And if you do that, you'll have a much better chance of really being able to tune in and really being able to adjust to the correct speed, okay? Just enough that it keeps them moving, but not so much that you're fighting them to make them move faster or slowing them down for that matter. So it's a bit like great public speaking, isn't it? So a good speaker knows how to use pauses. They don't rush their words. They use rhythm. They use timing. Obama is a great example of that with his pauses. And the power is in the pause, not the speed. So if this helped you, then please leave a comment how it helped you. If you try it out, if you try going slow at your next class, please come back to this video and let me know how it went. And also, I'll be teaching a lot of different seminars all around the world in 2026. So if you want to come to any of my seminars, there's a link below, and you can get on my list, my email list of seminars. You'll get notified ahead of time. Looking forward to seeing you there. Looking forward to training. Again, in the comments section, let me know how it went. Bye-bye.